understand what is your unfair advantage. What are you best at? You know internally that you're better than anyone at something. It doesn't mean you're arrogant. I feel like I'm the best storyteller in the world. Other people may think I'm not.
This is Right Media Group Chronicles, your shortcut to sharper ideas, smarter moves, and creative breakthroughs. Let's roll.
Welcome to today's episode. For those of you just joining the podcast, we are Right Media Group and specialize in helping marketing agencies scale their revenue. So if you want to learn how to take your agency business to the next level, make sure to stick around. And if you're interested in a free growth consultation, just drop us the word growth in the DMs. We have a very special guest today, Moti Elkaim, the founder and CEO of Atlantic Brands. Moti, would you mind to introduce yourself to the audience?
Absolutely. Thank you, Jolanta, for having me here. I appreciate it. So I'll tell you a bit about Atlantic Brands. Atlantic Brands is a branding agency that specializes in brand development primarily in two aspects of it, storytelling and brand visual identity. And what we do is that we help, for the most part, early stage companies with identifying their brand identity, brand mission, brand purpose. And we help founders with investor pitching as they're trying to raise their rounds. The agency has been around for about 4 years now. And prior to Atlantic Brands, I was the CMO of Copilot CX, VP of marketing at various startups. So I'm very accustomed to the emerging companies world.
So you've had about 19 years of experience in branding and marketing. So what first drew you into this world?
I was always keen on audience engagement.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, storytelling was so fascinating from day one. And my passion through public speaking, storytelling really navigated my career throughout the various companies I worked with. And what I realized early on is that brands who can tell good stories will elevate themselves above the competition, regardless of the market you're in, if it's a tough market or an easy market, and regardless of the phase of technology that is now dominating the market, whether it is SaaS, AI, whatever it may be. Brands' ability to really elevate themselves above the competition, above the noise, to me fundamentally relies on their ability to tell their story the right way.
Is there any particular steps that you can tell the audience that they should follow or the businesses should follow in order to have a good storytelling into that brand?
Yeah, if you are in, it depends on the phase. If you are in the phases where you're kind of launching the company, you're into market penetration, it's your agencies in the early days or whatever it is, I have what I love to call the rule of one, right? Focus on one problem, one solution, one audience. Your ability to focus your offering and understand why you are the best solution for that audience is critical, because a lot of the time, founders, CEOs, executives, agency owners, in their attempt to get revenue, are just going everywhere. And they're casting a wide net, and they're obsessed with all the market noise that is happening. At the end of the day, you really need to understand why you're better than anyone. Understand that one single reason. There is always one thing that you do better than anyone, and then drive that home as hard as you can. That will be your jumping board to other product extensions, other segments of the market, other services offerings, whatever it may be. But start very focused and then go wide. I like to call it go niche or go home. When agencies, when founders are trying to go too wide, this is where they lose themselves in the crowd. Go niche or go home.
So are you very much so specializing in a single niche, or do you think general agencies can still, or businesses rather, can still survive in this day and age, or do they need to be niched down?
I think everyone needs to be niched out, especially in the early days. So for instance, with Atlantic Brands, our focus was investor pitching and storytelling, right? We helped founders with investor pitching. That's what we did. So we only provided this service. Now, because of my background and the great experiences we had with our customers, we had customers who came in and say, listen, Moti, I love the story that you built for the brand. Would you mind managing the brand visual development for me? Now, I have all of my contacts from my previous years, the designers, the videographers, the web developers. So I said, fine, why not? Let me do this project for you, grow my income as well on the side, always a good thing. But I started with storytelling. I was the best at what I do. That led me to success with our clients. That led to the clients asking for more. And then I grew my business based on demand. The market demanded more, and only then I decided I'm going to branch out a little further into brand visual identity. But I always used my niche as the jumping board to everything I do.
That's very wise. Still see, like you say, there are some general kind of businesses out there as well as agencies. But then there have been some that have been founded years and years ago. So obviously, I think they're in a good position. Like you say, they probably started niche down and then now they've gone on the wider spectrum, like branches, as you say. But then agencies in this world or businesses in this world to not be specific to a niche, I completely agree with you that they will not stand out.
Yeah, and I always like to say, and that's kind of a worn out example, but I always like to say that Amazon started with books, right? For those of us who are old enough to remember Amazon's early days, they started with books. The reason they started with books is that it was the fastest growing vertical in the days of e-commerce. Now imagine yourself, okay, let's take Amazon for a second. Imagine yourself that I was Jeff Bezos back in the day, and that would be my pitch today, as if I was pitching the full Amazon, right? We're going to sell everything that you want to have in your house. Everything you can imagine, you can buy on Amazon. Then we're going to expand and we're going to buy grocery stores, right? So, and then we're going to start producing our own products. We're going to call it Amazon Basics. But then what we're foreseeing in the future is that cloud services are also going to be amazing. And we're going to launch AWS Cloud. Everything sounds like such a mess, right?
Yeah, overwhelming, might I say.
Overwhelming, right? Now, is everything attainable? Fact of the matter is, because that's what Amazon is doing today. But you have to choose your unfair advantage, your niche, the one you can specialize in. And once you develop that reputation, this amazing reputation of doing one thing great, then people will assume you can do other things just as great. And they'll come to you. So jumping board. That's what I'm always say to any emerging agency founder I'm talking to.
So looking back, what's one campaign or project that stands out as a favorite for you? If any, I'm
There
sure
are
there
many.
might be. There are many. How I
There
see.
are many.
Hard to pick.
So I was working with a private investment banker, or a hedge fund, I should say. And he had quite a unique philosophy to his work. And he was trading in what they call alternative assets. What are alternative assets? Flour, rice, wheat, all of those things. But the way he looked at his work is that he examined history and philosophy to understand how markets will act based on past experiences and human behavior. And what he realized is that success always happens when there are kind of fraction moments where things are not aligning, meaning Ukraine is one of the largest exporters of wheat, right? A war in Ukraine is starting. If you don't know that the Ukraine is such a large wheat exporter, then you don't know to trade with. So he was looking for those asymmetries in life that will drive growth. And for him, we came up with a tagline and a messaging that says, success lives in asymmetry. And that was his speech to all of his investors who invested it, because he said, look, at the end of the day, if you follow best practices, then you're just going to be like everyone else. It's called a best practice. If it is called a best practice, it means everyone else is already doing it. Success lives in asymmetry, in the things that not too many people know, not too many people know to recognize. So we came up with a tagline of success lives in asymmetry, which very much resonated with his personality and his approach to investment. And a lot of investors really appreciated it because they got tired of all the, traders were telling them, let's go for the S&P 500. Let's go for everything that everyone else is saying. They wanted a different approach. So that to me was one very good campaign. And another good campaign that I really liked, I was doing this messaging project for a tech community, a big tech community in New York. And they're bringing tech members through various events, and they allow the networking to progress each other. So we came up with a very meaningful tagline and messaging that follows it, that says, from connection, all progress begins. Now, think about it for a second. Whether we are in a community or not, you reached out to me to be a guest on your podcast, right? You connected. Now we achieved progress. We are doing this episode. When a founder is looking for a co-founder, they have a connection and then they start a company and then they launch the company. Or when you look for investors, you connect with an investor, and then you get the investment. So from connection, we have to understand that from connection, all progress begins. And it's very deep because it's not only the human to human connection, it's the mind share. If we are sharing the same ideas, the same mind share, then we'll be able to push each other forward as well. So those are just two examples of campaigns I really like.
Seems like you took away a lot of lessons from these two campaigns yourself personally as well.
Yeah, I mean, I love to dive into messaging. I really try to immerse myself in the life of the client to understand their personality, because at the end of the day, everything lives in identity. Your brand has an identity. You as a founder have an identity. Your agency have an identity. If you're not able to deliver that identity outward, then you're just going to be another leaf in the back. Exactly, or just one of the agencies in the background. And I think, and this is where I go back to the go niche or go home. And I think this is where most agencies, more companies fail, is because they fail to establish their identity. Understand who you are, push it forward as hard as you can. Whether you are, and not too many people are going to like it, but the ones who do are going to pay a premium for your services.
Because I understand with the niching down, because you are a specialist in that niche. You're not just a generalist. I completely agree with you. But in regards to the first example that you mentioned, taking a different approach, something that hasn't been tested out before, would you not say at the same time that's also risking a lot as well? Because you don't know. It hasn't been tested. Is it going to work? Is it not going to work?
Yeah. Well, first of all, two things to understand. Niche doesn't mean small. Niche means focus, right? You can have a $3 billion niche, but it's still a niche. Now, in terms of risks, that's what we do in life. That's why we start businesses. That's why we start agencies. We have an idea. We have a vision. We want to execute on that vision. None of your audience members, which is primarily agency owners and marketers, would be here or would listen if they weren't willing to take risks, right? And it's not only founders of companies. It's not only agency owners. To me, there is a lot of what I called workplace entrepreneurship. Let's say you're a CMO, you run into the CEO, you want $1 million budget for a campaign. That's risk. When you think about it, you're fundraising, you're going to the CEO, you're asking for funds. You need to convince the CEO that your vision is right. Then you're going to get the money. And guess what? If it fails, you just took a risk. This world belongs to risk takers, to hustlers.
In your opinion, if you don't risk, you don't win.
100%. And if you lose, you lose. And losing is part of winning as far as I'm concerned, because you get experience. I failed many times. I'm sure you failed many times, big or small failures. That's how we get to where we are.
In regards to testing different ideas, especially something that's not out there, is there some sort of safe steps that you can still take in order to make sure the idea that you're funding or being invested for will work, in your opinion?
Yes, 100%. There are the two phases, the way I see it. Before you launch a business, a company, an initiative at work, there is the ideation. Okay, you came up with it, your aha moment, boom, you have to do it. And then there is the validation. To me, those who fail go from ideation to execution. They skip the validation part, right? So you have an idea, it's an amazing idea, it's burning inside your stomach, you want to execute it, great. Let's see that the market wants it. Go ahead, interview 500 people from your target audience, present it to them, get the feedback, make sure that they're willing to pay for it, make sure that there is a need for it, and then execute on it. Let's say you're starting your own agency, right? You know, I'll tell you a personal story because I love stories. Before I started my agency, I had this kind of role model that I worked with, and it was my coach for a while. And he said, listen, Moti, don't give up your day job until you have a few clients. Because everyone wants to start a business. But then when you start a business and you have zero money in the bank because you're chasing clients, everything is going to go wrong and you're going to be under immense pressure. So test the water before you go out. And that's what I did. I got 3 clients while working as a CMO. Luckily enough, I had an amazing CEO who welcomed the initiative and knew where I want to go, so he supported it. And I got 3 clients, and I got traction with them, and we worked together for 6 months. And I realized, okay, I have motion here. I have a playbook that is working. Boom, time to leave the full-time job. Because I'm not worried about, my kids not having food on the table or whatever it is, because I validated the business first. So don't go from ideation to execution. Ideation, validation, then execution.
Brilliant advice over there. So, in regards to ROI, how do you explain to your clients ROI that matters? Because obviously you have the likes, you have impressions, you have clicks, and I'm sure there's a lot of numbers, but really kind of that long-term growth, I think is really what matters in a business. So how do you explain it to your clients and what really matters to you personally?
So it's funny. I'm working with a client now, and she said, Moti, I'm tired of marketing people saying it's going to take time. I want to see results quickly. And I understand that everyone wants to kind of pay and get results immediately. I think the first thing everyone should do in any business engagement is set expectations right, straight, right from the beginning. I get that this is what you want to achieve. This is what I can deliver in this time frame to achieve it. If we are aligned, great, we can do it. If not, I don't want us both to set ourselves for failure just because I'm so eager to get your account and to provide you with the leads you want. It's not going to happen. So setting up expectations right from the start is key. Because if you say yes, yes, yes to get the account and then figure it out, that's great. That's the hustler mentality, right? It may or it may not work, but at the end of the day, your reputation is on the line. So whatever you do, get the account, set the expectations straight, and most importantly, one of the biggest advices I got in life, and that is from one of my partners who I worked with for a very long time, is a gifted designer, James Bernard. And he said, know who to say no to. Some clients, some prospects, you realize there is no chemistry. There are some red flags early on. Say no. Saying no sometimes is more important than saying yes.
Incredible. Awesome advice there. So, what would you say has been the hardest part of starting Atlantic Brands and growing it in under 4 years?
Well, here is the thing. To me, and I always said, is that when you own an agency, when you're independent, you have to wake up every morning with an unemployed mindset, meaning I don't have job. I have nothing. I have nothing in the bank. I have 0 clients. If I'm not going to do something, it's the end of it tomorrow. It's very hard to maintain that mindset. I fail it sometimes as well. When you have few accounts that you're working on, everything is going well, you can easily become complacent. When you lose the unemployed mindset, this is where you're going to start losing your clients. So always think to yourself, I have to get more work and I have to grow and I have to push forward. You failed? Great. Move on. No one cares. It didn't work your way? Great. Move on. No one cares. You have to move on all the time.
Did you learn this the hard way to have that unemployed mindset?
Yes, yes. I had, going back to my story, after I left my full-time job to launch the agency, and that was when I had 3 fractional CMO accounts, amazing retainers, true story. A day after I left the account, all 3 clients told me, listen, Moti, it's been amazing. Thank you for setting up our companies in the right way. It's time for us to go in-house.
Were they
All
all
3 of them.
connected? Or did they know
They're
each
not
other?
connected. They're not, true
Wow,
story,
that's
not
crazy.
connected. All 3 of them at the same time went from amazing to 0. And that's when I realized, you know what? You always need to pump your own marketing, deliver content, grow your agency, and to the capacity you can afford, because you never know what tomorrow is going to bring. Now, luckily enough, again, to be honest, it hit me for a moment.
That's when you had the
I'm not,
unemployed mindset, I think.
and I ended, and this is where I felt, okay, I'm unemployed right now. But then I said, okay, boom, push forward.
Yeah.
Start distributing content, go on LinkedIn, start posting, reach out to your network, and then it comes. And so that moment really instilled in me the fact that you can't stand still. You can't get lost in one account and say to yourself, oh, that's amazing. No, you have to keep pushing.
Yeah. I also spoke to many other agency owners, and the one struggle I've noticed, which is a common thread, is they're so focused on delivering for their clients where they forget or put on the back end their own agency, which now they realize is a mistake because you constantly need to invest, more and more, because
You
otherwise
have
you
to.
can have that growth.
You have to. I fail in that sometimes as well.
Mhm.
And I can see it all the time. Sometimes I have a few clients, very demanding. I'll get sucked into the day-to-day work. I'll forget to promote the agency, and then you see the inbound starting to decline. It's very clear. And then when you have time, you start work on your own marketing, and then you see the inbound goes up. And it's a cycle. Sometimes, it's inevitable. You have to devote your time to deliver all that you need to the client. But here's what I've learned. I call it marketing recovery. Marketing recovery is very hard. Once your momentum goes down, it's going to be 10 times as hard to bring it up. If you were doing something, let's say, I don't know, 3 posts a week on LinkedIn, releasing an article on Medium, whatever it is, that's all you did for a month. and that worked for you. You got all the leads you need from it, and you're happy, and then you stop doing it for a couple of months, that same format is not going to work for you anymore. Now you're going to have to work 10 times harder to go back to it. Because social media, and that is the impact that, again, I experienced, and I think other agency owners are experiencing as well, is that, it's going to take you much, a bigger investment to go back to where you were.
Is this where the consistency comes in as well?
Percent. I saw an interview with Bill Ackerman,
Bill
the
Ackerman.
billionaire who said, look, you need to understand that growth, like money, is compounded. You don't do one thing and then boom, you go to the moon. You invest $1, you get a 5-cent interest. You invest $1.05, you go to $1.10. You don't go from $1 to 100. So work, just like investment, is compounded. That compound is something that I failed to understand early on, and I think many agencies and many owners sometimes struggle with because they don't realize the amount of effort it will take to get back on the horse.
Down, fluctuations.
Well, you said it before, consistency, right? Plan your schedule that no matter what, let's put it this way, let me rephrase. If you identified your lead generation playbook, for me, it's Medium and LinkedIn. Those two are working well for me. If you identified your lead generation playbook, don't abandon it. Couple of hours a day must be devoted to it. You must find the time for ideation, for content delivery, or whatever it is that is working for you. You must find the time to maintain it. If you drop it, it's going to be very painful. I'm actually the #1 rated writer on Medium for everything that is related to investor pitching.
Incredible achievement there. Well done, you. Has that been something you recently started or a while?
I started it in day one when I started the agency, and within a few months, I got 40,000 reads to my articles and thousands of likes, and that outlet has been very kind to me.
So you said that storytelling makes people listen. So how do you coach startups to tell their own story with clarity?
So there is what I call a purposeful story. And the purposeful story has one purpose in mind, is to include your problem, solution, target audience, and market all in a single story. Because what happens today in investor pitching, still sadly, is that a lot of founders are following the pitch deck template, the old pitch deck template. It goes like problem, solution, traction, demo, finance, whatever it is. And what I say is that, look, you have an audience in front of you, and that audience needs to be engaged. They don't want another founder to come into the room and sound like all the founders that went in before them. So start with a purposeful story. And I'll give you an example, a real life example that enabled me to raise a hefty amount of money from an investor after one meeting. So back then I was working for a company called Carbine. I was the VP of marketing for Carbine. And what Carbine does is that it provides 911 centers, or 112 in Europe, I believe it's 112 in Europe, the ability to connect with caller via video and text without the need for an app. Beautiful solution. So I was sitting at a dinner, and just by coincidence, I said next to this very high net worth individual, and she asked me, what do you do for a living? And I said, I can tell you what I do for a living, or I can tell you a story about my work. What do you prefer? And she said, tell me a story. I said, okay. So this is a true story. I said, well, the company I work for, Carbine, provides services to 911 centers that allows them to connect via video and text to callers. But let me tell you why it matters. Because 2 weeks ago in Stark County, Ohio, a woman called 911, a person called 911. And the 911 operator who was on the line said, 911, what's your emergency? He didn't hear anything on the line. He said again, 911, what's your emergency? Again, no response on the line. As protocol dictates, he repeated it for the third time before hanging. And he said, 911, what's your emergency? And at that point, he heard heavy breathing on the line. So there was someone in distress on the other side. He realized that person couldn't talk over the phone, fearing for her life probably. So he texted her using the Carbine technology, and he said, this is 911, what's your emergency? And she responded saying, my husband, who got severely drunk, beat me, forced me to bed, put a shotgun between us and told me that if I'm going to move, he's going to shoot me. He passed out. Please come quickly. So the 911 call taker texted her back and said, police is on the way. And in an amazing moment of resiliency, she said, no sirens, please, you're going to wake him up. So he texted back, no sirens. As police came, they surrounded the house and the SWAT unit were about to enter the house, and the 911 call taker asked her, where in the house are you? And she said, second floor, right to the stairs. The SWAT officers came into the house, they climbed to the stairs, went to the first door to the right, and then the 911 call taker texted her and said, on the count of 3, will you be able to stand and run outside? She replied, yes. And then like in a Hollywood movie, he texted 3, 2, 1, go. As soon as he hit go, he told the officers to get into the room. They broke into the room, got the woman out, got the husband without a single shot being fired. So I looked at the high net worth individual next to me and I said, imagine to yourself what would have happened to that woman if she didn't have the ability to text to 911. At that moment, and that's a true story, she said, I'm in. 2 weeks later, we got an investment from her. Now,
Wow. You know what? I'm getting goosebumps just listening to this story. Honestly, that was incredible.
so this is what I call a purposeful story. Why is
Yeah.
it purposeful? Because I told you about the problem, right? I told you about the technology, and I told you about the target audience, but I combined everything into a story. Now imagine if I would go into it like many founders go into their pitching and would say something like the following. Carbine is a 911 cloud technology that enables 911 dispatcher for the first time to connect with callers through text and video without the requirement of an app. The way we're doing it, it's very dry.
Yeah,
And
there's
this is
not a
the
lot of
and this
meat
is
on
the
the
market.
bone.
Exactly. This is the market we're going after. 911 centers in the US, there are 30,000. When you tell a purposeful story, you allow the audience, the investor, to already visualize the market. I understand it can be applied everywhere because it has common sense and commonality to it. When you stick to that formula, you'll be able to connect with people way better than just feature dumping and describing your product at length, because at the end of the day, the technology doesn't matter. The process transformation you bring to organizations does, and the way to connect is through a purposeful story.
Yeah, I'll definitely take something away from this as well. Do you recommend any particular books on storytelling then that have left a memory for you or that you still refer back to?
Well, my book is coming out in 6 months, so you should read my
Okay,
book.
so I should look forward to that then.
You should look forward to that. I just encourage a lot of, look, storytelling the term is used and abused so many times, but I would encourage founders to open themselves to it, and agency owners as well. You know, if you're going to win over a client, one of the key things that will enable you to win an account is relatability. If they can relate to you, and through stories, you can connect to them very, very well.
Brilliant. So, in regards to Atlantic brands, do you have any future plans in the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, the agency is growing organically. Our focus was always, storytelling, corporate messaging, helping founders and companies tell their story better. But we are making waves in the visual identity development. And to me, it's maybe after the book is going to be released, is expansion to other markets. Right now, we're primarily focused in the US, but I see a lot of potential in Europe as well.
Okay, no, I see. So it's definitely going to come out in the next 6 months, the book.
Due date is May, hopefully, yes.
May. Okay, so you have already finalized everything, it's just waiting to be published.
Yes.
Awesome. So hypothetically, Moti, if you had a magic wand to either fix one thing in the business right now that's slowing you down or holding you back, what would it be?
Oh, that's an amazing question. To me, it's always about finding the right talent, especially in storytelling and messaging. It's very hard to find the right content creators with the right emotional intelligence who can distill the essence of clients and companies very quickly. So talent is always hard. And that's where I see my challenges in scaling, is to getting the right talent.
Is that for your own
Getting
company?
talent is
Sorry.
getting talent is easy. Getting the right talent is hard.
What has worked for you previously?
What's working for me is that, I understand the things I know how to do best and delegate all the rest to others and trust them to do the work.
Delegation is
So,
important.
yeah. So the designers, I'm not a designer. Let the designers do their job. Trust them to do their job. Obviously, give feedback along the way. So bring in the complementary services that can complement what you offer, and also the understanding that if you're going to grow and you're going to let other people do it for you, you need to accept the fact that for better or it's not going to be like you cook the dish. It's going to be an amazing dish to eat and you can accept it, but you have to trust the other cooks in the kitchen and let it run. And you have to accept that, you know what? You're an amazing storyteller. You're an amazing content creator. You have to let others be amazing as well. To me, that is very hard because I find the angle in which I approach to content to be very particular, and there are always missing things in others people's work.
It's
But
a struggle, I see.
if you want to scale, then you need to let other content creators be other content creators,
Yeah.
or you won't be able to scale.
But then you have this specific way to go about it. So you want them to do the same, not their other ways, because this is what resonates with you.
Exactly. But then you have to decide, okay, I'm out of this scope, right? I have this content writer. He's working with that customer. As long as the customer is happy, I'm happy. It doesn't matter if I could write the
It's
story
not
better.
perfect. Yes.
It doesn't matter if I could write the story better. And sometimes the content writer can outdo me because they come up with the great ideas as well. It's not like I'm the only one with great ideas. But you have to understand that that's it. You made a match between one of your employees and a client. Let them do their thing. That's it. You made a match. Now you move on. That is, to me, a very challenging process emotionally.
Yeah. Traumatizing in a way, might I say?
Definitely when it doesn't work.
Yeah. So for you, in order to grow Atlantic brands, it's very important for you to get through this hurdle right now. That's the most important step, personally. Is that correct?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. Letting the team, because look, you build an agency with your own hands. You build it with it's yours.
You probably started on your own, to be fair. One man army.
Yes. And what you learn throughout the way is very easy. It's very hard to kind of pass along, but then you hand it over. And no matter how amazing your team is or smart they are, no one is going to be as passionate about your agency as you are.
It's your
No one
business.
is going to have your sense of urgency. No one is going to wake up in the middle of the night and the weekend and start pumping stuff. And it's fine because it's not theirs. And you need to accept it. It's a very, very challenging process to accept because when you start an agency, you're the CEO, you're the content creator, you're the bookkeeper, you are everything. And then all of a sudden, you're letting more and more things go. And that's a very challenging process, I can
But
imagine, for everyone.
would you say it's also an important subject in order to grow? You got to let go. You got to delegate.
Yes,
Otherwise, you
and
can't be
you
doing
need to
everything, can you?
understand. Yeah, and you need to understand what you're good at and what you're not. So I'm not a person who is in the details. I love to create content, manage content. I can't look into bookkeeping. I can't look into HR. I need to let other people do it. And just find the people who are better than you at something and just let them be better. And if you think you're better at storytelling, then let them do 90% of the job. Come and put in your critical 10%. And
Then, like, because you obviously explain about expanding past USA market into Europe. So, what is the dream? What is the dream for your agency?
I mean, right now we have what I called 11 full-time freelancers.
Hmm.
And I found this model of operation to work very well. And most agencies work like that. To be honest, my dream is just to continue the way we are right now. It's working. It's gelling. We're growing organically. Achieving that status of, having an agency is key. I'm happy. I have no kind of $50 million benchmark for revenue a year. I'm doing what I'm doing because I love it and it's working. And to me, that's success. So just define success for yourself and don't try to go after other metrics. So, if you want to be the biggest, I don't know, branding agency in the US and that's your goal, fine. Then decide what you have to do in order to make it happen. To me, I love engaging with clients. That's why I don't call myself, by the way, a lot of time I've been introduced as the CEO. I call myself chief of brand because I love the branding work. I'm the worst CEO on the planet. Not because I don't like people or can't manage people. I'm not in the details. I don't like the day-to-day. I love engaging with clients. I love building brands.
Would you have any advice for other agency owners trying to stand out in the market?
Yeah, it goes back to our earlier conversation is, you know what? Understand what is your unfair advantage. What are you best at? You know internally that you're better than anyone at something. It doesn't mean you're arrogant. I feel like I'm the best storyteller in the world. Other people may think I'm not. But my unfair advantage is that I can simplify stories in a way that makes people connect. I can make people listen. That's my unfair advantage. Understand what is your unfair advantage and then push it as aggressively as you can. By the way, for many agency owners, the unfair advantage might not be a creative skill, right? I'm an amazing networking person. I can go out to events and get clients boom, 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 like that. That's my unfair advantage. Do it. Go for it. And then have the creative people do the actual work. For some of them, like myself, we love the artistic part to create the content, the visuals, whatever it is. Go for it. Let it be your jumping board.
I'm actually very curious about this next question because you're so fond of storytelling. It's very, very important to you, as we clarified. What is your take on AI and storytelling?
Well,
Do the two fit together? Do you personally use AI? Or is
yes.
there some areas you don't use AI?
Yes,
Mhm.
just like everyone, I use AI. I use AI as a brainstorming buddy. And, I had an event with Udi Ledregor, the legendary CMO, former CMO of Gong, now their chief evangelist. And he said the following. He said, we all use ChatGPT, but when I brainstorm for ideas, I take the 10 first things that ChatGPT wrote and I cross them off the list. And
That's a
then we
different approach.
start and then we start thinking. Now, it's great to work with ChatGPT and AI to kind of brainstorm some ideas, and you can get some good ideas from ChatGPT, but you need to understand something, that at the end of the day, it comes to a human-to-human connection. Whether you're using AI or not, make sure that the story you're delivering, the pitch you're delivering, whatever it is true to your identity, to your language, to your character. Because if you're going to let anyone, AI, your founder, your boss, whoever it may be, take over your tone of voice, you're not going to achieve connection. And as I said before, from connection, all progress begins. So use AI, get some side notes, but make it your own. The key thing is to make it your own. And this is where I see a lot of founders failing with their pitches, that they say, oh, well, there is the magic tool here. And I say, write me a pitch for this product that I've developed. This is the market audience. This is the target audience. This is the market size, blah, 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 blah. Great. I got a pitch. Easy. There is no substitute to hard work. You have to do your pitch.
Mori, thank you very much for sharing that. And for people that were trying to find your services or get to know you a little bit more, where could they look?
Well, first of all, you can always connect on LinkedIn. That's very easy. Just look up Moti Elkaim or go to our website, atlanticbrands.co, not com.co. You can see me there. And if you're interested in any of my Medium articles, you can just Google Medium Moti Elkaim and you'll find me.
Mori, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Jolanta.